Great stuff. Thanks for that. Okay, here's another one. Ray has previously mentioned that his favorite animals are ants. Are there any animals that Ray considers to be evil or malevolent, such as mosquitoes or hyenas?
I don't think so. It's just what they interpret as food that isn't compatible with our well-being. I noticed someone who asked the question, I think, had the name Sandwich.
Yeah.
It's a matter of perspective. The mosquito and hyena see lunch when they smell a person, and it's just in conflict with human preferences.
You have a good memory for remembering that. What semi-related?
On that note, then do you think there's let's say hunting for food, not for fun, not for pleasure, hunting for food is not an immoral activity for a human?
Yeah, if there's actually a reason to hunt for food, if they really need food. It's like a hyena. You can't say that they're having evil thoughts just because they have a different idea of what lunch is.
That's exactly the context I was asking on. I mean, if a person is hungry and if, let's say, food supply becomes a problem or becomes too compromised, right, and all you have is a gun and you're in the wilderness, then I guess it's a matter of perspective. Yes, it's a living creature you're destroying, but really there's you're not doing it for fun. You're doing it because you saw food.
Yeah.
Semi-related, but Ray, do you have any your favorite examples of mutual aid in the animal kingdom?
There are so many of them.
People are like impervious to that idea that nature isn't anything but terrible and harsh and cruel, and so that's why I feel like just getting your thoughts on it is useful.
You can see a lot of videos on the internet of animals expressing grief and gratitude and mutual support and so on.
Well, I watched one, and it must have been a tiger or something, and a bird had fallen into a tar pit, and the tiger like went over to it, grabbed onto its wing, and like swung it out of the tar pit. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I have several other examples. I mean, there's several videos on YouTube where you can see how a herd of buffaloes saves an antelope that a lion has basically latched on. And then the buffaloes will go in and kick the lion. Usually the lion leaves when he sees a herd of buffaloes, but if he doesn't, then he'll get kicked out. There's several videos of lions actually saving like a newborn antelope from a hyena, and playing with it, and not really treating it as food and just letting it be. And there are actually several videos also of humans saving animals in trouble, and some of those animals are not what should I call them, harmless at all. There are videos of person releasing a grizzly bear from a trap, a very large Canadian gray wolf from a trap, a bobcat, and I think even like a mountain lion. And typically if you get that close to these animals under normal circumstances, you will probably get attacked. But it was amazing that these animals were like basically just sitting there quietly, allowing the human to free them up. And in some cases after that, they refused to leave. They just kept following the human around as if they somehow became friends.
Actually, animals show gratitude and friendship.
Amazing.
Have you seen this in birds? In one of your books, you mentioned that birds are apparently really good at trying to like get people's attention and form cooperative relationships.
Yeah, and you probably remember the story I told about the ants. I put out an ant that was drowning in honey, and its head was exposed, and an ant came along and thought it had found a drop of honey, but it ran around it to see how big it was, and it saw the head sticking out and jumped back in shock, and then discussed the situation for a while. Very agitated communications, and then went around to the side and sat down and started eating. And another ant came along, did exactly the same thing, jumped back in shock, except this time the communication was very short, and it went around and started eating honey. And I didn't stay there to see if more ants came along and did the same. But when I came back an hour later, the drop of honey and the ants were all gone.
Oh, wow. Do you think ants communicate strictly to chemical messengers, or do you think they can do
No.
electromagnetic things too?
They were obviously doing some kind of sign and touch language. The first one, they would discuss it a while, and the arrived ant would run around, and they would talk about it some more, and it ran around 2 or 3 times, describing how big the drop was before it started eating.
So these stories about a horse whisperer or a wolf whisperer or whatnot, they actually have basis in reality. Apparently, people can learn the language of animals and communicate with them.
And I'm convinced that ants, for example, have lived around people enough that they've learned English or whatever language they're around. A couple of times when ants were bothering a roommate who was going to get some ant poison, I just firmly and clearly said, if you don't leave, that person is going to poison you. And they just disappeared.
You're saying we could experience a Coco the ant-like situation with sign language. One day we could figure out the ants' language with their arms and things like that?
I think so. It's obviously a very efficient language that can take a new, totally novel situation like that and size up the nature of the problem. So the second ant arriving got the idea in just a brief conversation.
I interrupted you. Did the ants that were bothering your friend, did they just quickly go away, or what happened?
Yep, just disappeared.
Great stuff. I have one more question. You called like mushrooms an inspiration based on their structure and what they're able to do. What are so special about ants? Like why are they so amazing to you?
That at a relatively low body temperature, they can be so quick-witted. Mm-hmm. As they get very cold, then they slow down. Mm-hmm. But they think and calculate just with amazing efficiency. Basically as smart as anyone.
Do you think them living in those burrows, basically, just like the naked mole rat, they're exposed to high concentrations of carbon dioxide, and that may explain some of their... Okay. Yeah. Have you seen the study showing that ants don't age? Basically, they die either from a predator or a trauma, basically. Something squashes them, but they don't really age.
That would be the outcome of living in a high CO2 environment, I think.